Okay, let's move on to censorship then. And we're heading over to Australia first and see how they're doing in terms of bringing forward this narrative. So here is the Right Honourable Michelle Rowland, MP, Minister for Communications in Australia. It's time to act on misinformation and disinformation. So let's just have a quick look at some of the points that she makes here. Seriously harmful misinformation and disinformation spreads at speed and at scale across the digital world. Recent events in Australia and abroad, and she was talking about Southport here, demonstrate the real world impact that it's having on social cohesion and safety of communities. She said, while misinformation and disinformation may be shared by well-intentioned people who believe the information is credible, it's often spread with intent to do harm. Not quite sure how she knows that, but she talks about bad actors using bots and troll farms, and she's particularly worried about interference in democracy, economy and society. And so they have introduced the Communications Legislation Amendment (brackets Combating Misinformation and Disinformation) Bill 2024, which is going to hold big tech to account, while balancing the freedom of expression. So we're hearing the same kind of rhetoric. So looking at this bill itself, they define disinformation as any content that contains information that is reasonably verifiable as false, misleading or deceptive. And my first question would be, is how much information that comes out from government or mainstream press is reasonably verifiable as false? It's quite a significant proportion. But anyway, it goes on to say, when the provision of the content on the digital service is reasonably likely to cause or contribute to serious harm. And then the question is, well, what is serious harm? And they define that as vilification of a group in Australian society distinguished by race, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, intersex status, disability, nationality, or national or ethnic origin, or vilification of an individual because of a belief that the individual is a member of such a group. So this, just like in the UK then, the other point to make is that the dissemination of professional news content is explicitly excluded from the bill. So that's what's going on in Australia. It's mirroring very much what's going on in the United Kingdom. And we'll have more to say on this idea of professional news content in the not too distant future. But in the case of professional news content, let's have a look at this. This is the latest survey from Ofcom, talking about where people are finding their news or getting their news. And there's some good news in this little graph, because what we're discovering is that the number of people going to BBC One for the news has fallen from 49% in the UK to 43% between last year and this year. The number of people that are going to ITV or to STV or to UTV has fallen from 34% last year to 30% this year. Facebook stays the same at 30%. iPlayer is roughly the same. YouTube, unfortunately, is going up as a source of news for people in the UK. Sky News is also gone up a little bit. It's come down from 21% to 19%. BBC News channel itself, the main BBC News channel, has fallen from 23% to 18%. And the BBC News website and app has fallen from 22% last year to 18% this year. Instagram is up 2%, and X is the same as last year. So it's, we can take these statistics. It is a survey, after all. We can take them as far as we like, but it seems to be offering a little bit of good news in the sense that the BBC in particular is finding itself being switched off. But in the meantime, then following on from the United States criticism of RT recently, and the claim that RT has been funding so-called influencers on the internet to push Russian disinformation, the US has now decided to alert the world to RT's global covert activities, and has decided to sanction FT. The Foreign Office then has made a statement on this, saying that the UK supports the US in their assessment that RT is not only a state-funded propaganda house, but deliberately working to undermine our collective security on behalf of the Kremlin. US information shows that RT is engaged in information operations and covert influence around the world. These activities strike at the democratic foundations of other countries, using intelligence operations and shadowy networks to incite political violence and spread dissent around the world. We're going to talk about this with Vanessa much more in Extra, but I just want to remind everybody, of course, that same Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, through its so-called Counter Disinformation and Media Development Programme, funded the Integrity Initiative. If you want to know more about that, get on the UK Column website. And we also need to mention BBC Media Action and their actions around the world, also the Thomson Reuters Foundation. But we'll talk about a bit more about this in extra.